Hey, beautiful people. My name is Archange Antoine. Today, I want to talk to you a little about becoming better critical thinkers. It's essential that all of us are better critical thinkers. And what do I mean by that? It's becoming media literate. It's to understand that every time we open that TV, we open our computers, we consume on social media, we're listening to radio, or any other forms of media, that we understand that though they are trying to have impacts on our lives, right? They're trying to get us to think differently. They're trying to get us to act differently. Trying to get us to develop into different people. They're trying to get us to rethink some of our information. And they're also trying to change some of the concepts that we've been living with and that are part of our daily cultural community families. For example, change success, right? How do you define success? Has it changed over the years? What has caused those changes, right? What does it mean to be a successful student? What does it mean to be a successful parent? What does it mean to be a successful individual, a successful entrepreneur? These definitions are constantly changing, and I guarantee you, depending on what you're consuming, that changes. Some of it is good and some of it is bad, right? When your family would tell you success means being a good person, working, being giving back to your community, and doing as best as you possibly can, right? Those sound pretty reasonable. But then sometimes you might consume media where success is how big your car is, how big your house is, how much money you have in the bank, how beautiful your spouse is, what kind of clothes you wear. Two definitions of success. And depending on the bar that you're trying to achieve, sometimes you can end up striving for something that's not there. And this is why it's important that when you're watching your TV shows, when you listen to the radio, when you're listening to the news, when you're watching your favorite movie, you have to ask, what are these medium or these sources doing to me? If you think that they're not doing anything to you, you've missed the whole thing. For 6 years, I've taught communications at King University, and I used to teach my kids to become more critical thinkers and media literate. And I've spent time talking to them about the media, the industry, and the history of media, and how it plays a role in our communities, in our congregations, and in our civic life. Also plays a role in our international community, especially when it comes down to war. One of the things that we don't like to talk about, which is important, is how our government perpetuates some of these messages. And this is why you'll always hear me talking about propaganda, right? Propaganda is a form of misinformation or information, depending how you want to look at it, spread to get you to believe or to buy into certain things. Everybody does it, right? America does it. China does it. You got Spain that's doing it. You got every nation that's doing it. Some on major scales, some on small scales. But it's important that you understand what is the messages that our nation is spreading to us. This is why September 11, this is something that happened in our nation that took us to the war with Iraq, right? That was major misinformation campaign, because to this day, we can't talk about weapons of mass destruction, and we're still trying to figure out why did we go to war, right? Afghanistan, that's a big part of where we spent trillions of dollars at. And most people are saying, why are we in Afghanistan? Because that was part of a long campaign of misinformation that was confusing us, and it propped up the military-industrial complex. Right now, you have the impeachment hearing that just took place. People are saying, was he guilty? Was he not guilty? And you got people saying no, and then you got people saying yes. And it's important that we cut through a lot of the BS and we get down to facts and the data and the research and objective information. It's not easy being media literate, but what it's going to take is for you to step back, to figure this picture out, and to realize that there's a message, and what is the message trying to say to me, but more importantly, do to me. The last thing I will say is people don't spend millions and billions of dollars on advertisement for no reason. If I went ahead and said, ba-da-ba-ba-ba, I'm loving it, would be most of your responses. And that has nothing to do with how much information you studied, how much you memorized this song, or that your mom passed it down. You learned it against your will. And if that's one song that you are able to memorize and consume and have it dwelling in your own mind, in your membrane, and now you're able to repeat at any given moment, what else is lodged in your mind? So again, everybody, be media literate, think critically, do not call people conspiracy theorists. Look at the information before you push people to the side. Don't call people in the cult. Look at the information before you throw it out, and become better critical thinkers, especially during the time of Corona. There's a lot of information out there, a lot of misinformation out there, but don't throw it all out. I know a lot of people are afraid of this 5G stuff. And I would say this, everybody, while 5G is not connected to the coronavirus, right? There are legitimate concerns about the 5G network and the impacts that it's going to have into our communities. That has nothing to do with the coronavirus as a disease. Prior in 2019, even in my own community, in my own region, there were communities that were raising up the concerns with towns preparing for 5G networks and all these other stuff happening in our communities. And what I'm saying is that it's important to take a look at the facts and to research, and it takes time, but you don't want to throw out people because you think that they're part of this fringe group who are preparing for misinformation. Become media literate, become a better person, teach your kids to question all information.